Hey, it's day 27 of 365 days of open heart living. I am Korinn, and day 27 is vulnerable. So, do you like feeling vulnerable? How does feeling vulnerable sit with you? Is it something that you avoid? Is it something that you cower from? Is it something that you lean into? Or maybe is it something that you draw strength from being vulnerable? Can you find your strength in being vulnerable? Can you find weakness in not opening to vulnerability? I think those are real truths. I think that our world and the design, the creative cosmic design, is filled with paradox, to where you have to be one to get to the other, or in being in one space of holding, you prevent yourself from that which you're actually thinking you're creating by your holding pattern. So what I mean by that is that when you hold yourself and you don't allow vulnerability, you think you're being strong, but you're actually creating a weakness, because there's a weak point within you that you don't want anybody to see, you don't want anybody to know, you don't want the world to see the truth of who you are, how you are, what you're going through, because it's hard. And I'll give you credit for that. Like, life is hard. But in the opposite paradox, oh shit. Okay, my dog did not like the walker going by, so we're just taking a moment to calm down here. Okay, go back to your spot. Okay, so what I think I was trying to say was that in the opposite paradox, vulnerability, allowing yourself to let your weaknesses be witnessed, heard, seen, expressed, the things that are your innermost self, allowing them to be shared with another human being, that creates and grows strength within you. Because isn't it really everyone's heart's desire? Our true heart's desire is to be seen, to be understood, to be valued outside of our weaknesses, in spite of and inclusive of our weaknesses. I mean, that's really unconditional love, right? When you have somebody that knows your shitty bits and loves you anyway. When you have someone you can be vulnerable with, that is a strong relationship. There's not weakness there. So I recently was a guest on a podcast, and I will include this in the links of the description of today's meditation, day 27. The podcast I was a guest on is called Midlife with Courage with Kim Benoit, and she interviewed me about my losing my husband and the effect that had on me and our family, and what I did to kind of help myself. And so there's a part of me that I'm okay sharing things, because I I'm comfortable with being vulnerable, and I hope that things that I share other people can have some benefit from. So I blasted it out on my personal Facebook feed, and I had one person in particular comment back that that I was brave and that it was vulnerable for me to share my story. And that kind of hit me because I didn't feel like I was being vulnerable in sharing my story. It's a part of me, and I can talk about it comfortably, that my husband passed and the depths of that pain, and just kind of how I was able to little by little build life back up after being defeated in such a way. But it made me reflect and feel like, wow, at this point in my life, vulnerability is a strength for me. And that's where my inspiration for day 27 being vulnerable is coming for you. I don't think there's anything else that I need to say right now. So I want you to close your eyes. Taking a couple nice, deep, relaxing breaths. And just witness yourself right now. When you think about being vulnerable, ask yourself, how do I feel about being vulnerable? And feel the response in your body to how you respond to just even the thought of being vulnerable. How do I feel about being vulnerable? Be curious and noticing how your body responds to that thought of vulnerability. Is there any part of your body that tenses up? Feel into that spot in your body that has tension towards feeling vulnerable. Feel it and just breathe. And as you're feeling that tension in your body, and you're feeling your breath, you might start to notice that the quality of your breath is glazing over that tension that you hold in your body to feeling vulnerable, glazing over it and softening it. If you want, you can breathe a little bit deeper. But keep your attention on these two things: the tension you hold in your body against feeling vulnerable, and your breath that softens it. Perhaps this is another paradox. You have to feel in order to allow the opening release of that which you hold against being vulnerable. Feeling the breath is creating openness and connection to that space in your body that holds you against opening to vulnerability. And in feeling the breath of openness, you're opening up and allowing that space in your body to soften. Perhaps giving yourself more space within you to open to being vulnerable. Breathing in and out and being witness to how that space in your body is shifting and lightening in openness. Now I want you to ask yourself again, how do I feel about being vulnerable? And be a witness to the response in your body now. Has it changed? Is it softer? Does it not tense up nearly as much as it did at the beginning? And then just come back to feeling your breath and watching as that, however you're feeling, tension or not tense in your body, in that space that tensed up at the beginning, perhaps, if you hold against feeling vulnerable in the world. Feel there and feel the breath. when you're ready, open your eyes. How was that for you? What I was talking you through was kind of what I was experiencing when I first started in. My guts like it got super tight, and that's where I felt it in my navel area, which is the solar plexus energy center, and that is, or the navel energy center, and that is the seat of our personal power, our sense of ourself. So that makes total sense that that closes down and feeling vulnerable, because we're trying to block and protect ourselves against losing a sense of ourselves, against somebody else's opinion of what we're being vulnerable with them about, coming back to make us feel like I shouldn't have said that, or I wish I would have shared, or how are they gonna think of me now, or being vulnerable, there's always an angle of, I think, giving too much of ourselves or losing a part of ourselves, and we can be guarded in that. We want to preserve our sense of ourselves, or if we have pains that we don't want to express, then that pain, it's hard to share. It can be hard to share and being vulnerable, because then we have to feel it. That's another angle, yeah. So our vulnerability can be held and blocked by us because we don't want the outside world coming in or having an effect on us, critiquing us, or something negative coming out of sharing. But also we sometimes block because we don't want our inside world coming out. We're afraid to feel ourselves. And vulnerability, if you're gonna be vulnerable, like, you have to feel how you feel. Which, my friend, again, it's a strength. It's a strength to feel your vulnerability. So the breath is an amazing gift when we use it, because it neutralizes ourselves. Bucky, stop. Oh my God, my dog today, I'm sorry. And that's what this process was today, of feeling vulnerability within your being, but then using the breath to stabilize and to neutralize that tension so that it can soften and open, so that maybe the next time we have the opportunity to be vulnerable with somebody, we have a little bit more softness in allowing it than stonewalling it from happening. So in closing today, I will again say that vulnerability can be a strength, and that being too strong against allowing vulnerability can be a weakness. But we have to discern, when is it appropriate, helpful, healing, healthy to be vulnerable, and when is it not? So also, the next time you have an opportunity to allow open vulnerability, you can ask yourself, what is there to lose in allowing vulnerability, and what is there to gain in allowing vulnerability? And your answer might surprise you, because sometimes what is to gain in allowing vulnerability far outweighs what there is to lose. Because in allowing pieces of yourself to be opened to others, you open a space to allow the person to be there for you. And that is so beautiful. And I want that for you. So please live your heart.